Hello guys, welcome to Octacoder, fellow developers and food enthusiasts. Today we are embarking on an exciting journey into the world of backend development. Brace yourself for a remarkable adventure as we dive deep into building a robust real-world application using Node.js, Express.js and MongoDB. Our mission? Creating something truly amazing, the backend for the Find My Restaurant applications. But before we delve into coding, every great project begins with meticulous planning and well-structured documentation. And we have the Find My Restaurant documentation right here. In this comprehensive document, we have all the details we need to create this application. It outlines the vision, functionalities, and essential features that will make Find My Restaurant a delightful and user-friendly platform for restaurant exploration. Let's take a moment to understand what we are going to build. The core of Find My Restaurant revolves around 8 to 9 main functionalities, which will translate into RESTful APIs. Here's a sneak peek at what Find My Restaurant will offer. First, add details of new restaurant, then list down all restaurants present in the database. Then find different categories of restaurant, for example, dine-in or takeout. Filter by category, whether they are for dine-in or takeout. Search for specific restaurant. Find restaurant based on their ratings. That is we always do in real life. We look for best restaurant by checking highest ratings, right? Then update restaurant details and lastly delete restaurant. So these are main functionalities we need to build. Moreover, we have provided a restaurant schema that outlines the required fields such as name, description, category, image URL, location, phone, and rating. We have even incorporated HTTP status code to keep you informed. HTTP 200 for success and HTTP 500 for internal errors. Now let's take a peek at the RESTful API endpoints that we'll be constructing. Our journey begins with the creation of POST API to add a restaurant. When making this request, the request body should be structured as illustrated and the response body will mirror the example shown in the screenshot. If any internal error occurs, fear not, we'll be armed with an HTTP 500 bad request status code. The adventure continues with the GET API to fetch all restaurants and response body will fetch all restaurants. Then GET by categories, then GET by rating value, then put API to update restaurant details and lastly delete restaurant. Our documentation also includes all the essential details about each RESTful API endpoint, what request body we need to send and what response body we will receive. It's all carefully outlined here, making our development process smooth and efficient. So fellow coders and culinary enthusiasts, we are about to embark on an exciting coding journey. With Node.js, Express.js and MongoDB at our disposal, we'll transform the Find My Restaurant vision into reality that users will delight in exploring. Let's dive in and turn this vision into finely crafted reality. Before we begin, don't forget to grab your favorite snack, a trusty companion for our coding escapades. Now let's embark on this extraordinary journey of crafting a robust real-world application using Node.js, Express.js and MongoDB. Our keyboard are our compasses, our screen are our canvas, and together we'll breathe life into every line of code. Are you ready? Let's bring our ideas to life, one code snippet at a time. Now let's start coding. First we need to download Node.js. Node.js is an open source cross-platform JavaScript runtime environment. We are gonna use that to create server-side JavaScript applications. If you never used Node.js, don't worry. This video is for everyone who's starting with Node.js and Express and has never built their own API before. So now download this LTS version or you can download current version, but I recommended you to download LTS version and install it. I have already installed. OK. Secondly, we'll be using Express.js. Express is as you can see, fast, unopinionated, minimalist web framework for Node.js. So it is a web framework for Node.js. Express is going to help us create different routes for our API. And for data storage, we have got MongoDB. It's a robust and flexible NoSQL database. And we are going to use it to store our app data. Hope you have installed it. If not, then please install MongoDB Compass or you can use MongoDB Atlas. Okay. And finally, we'll be using POSTMAN. POSTMAN is going to help us make different requests to our API so that we can test all of our endpoints. So let's move to Visual Studio Code. Right now I am inside Visual Studio Code in an empty folder. It's called Find My Restaurant. You can create your own empty folder and just open in Visual Studio Code. Okay. So first we need to initialize our backend JavaScript application. So let's open terminal. And you can run npm init command in terminal. Give application name Find My Restaurant. Remember all small letters. Okay. Version, enter. Description, write. Build RESTful APIs for Find My Restaurant. Then enter. Enter, just enter. Author, Octacoder. It will create package.json file, and inside this file, what we just write, those details are given. Like we have our application name, we have version, description, and so on. So let's create a new file, app.js, which is going to be the starting point of our server. Inside of here, we'll be using Express, so let's install it right away. npm I express. So it's gonna install. Now let's install all dependencies that we're gonna need in this application. So npm I mongoose for database, then install body-parser for incoming post request bodies that we will see soon. Okay. For now, just install all of these dependencies. Let's check all dependencies are installed or not. Just open package.json file, and here in dependencies, as you can see, body-parser, Express, and Mongoose is installed. And this version in future will be changed. Right now, August 2023 going on. So for now, we're using latest version. Okay. Now let's close this file. Now let's import Express in our app.js file. Const express required express. You can write it like this, or you can write like import express from express as you want. Okay. Now we need to initialize our Express application by doing const app equal to express, and we call that express as a function. Now our whole application relies on this variable. Now let's write code to start our server. So const port equal to 8080 and make our application listen for incoming request by saying app.listen method. And in here give specified port variable as first argument and callback function. And we're gonna simply log app is listening on port 8080. So let's test it. Open terminal and run our app file by typing node app.js command in terminal. And there you go, our application is listening on port 8080. Congratulations! You just learned to start the server and listening on port 8080. Here you can give port value between 0 to 65535. Greater than that we can't give. Okay. 8080 is a standard port number. Okay. Or you can use whatever the value you want, like 5000 or 3000 or just 80. You can use. Just remember, value should not be greater than 65535. Okay. Let's see. Give port number 5000. Save it and run the command again here. We don't need to type command again. Just press up arrow key and you will get previous command here and hit the enter. And see, app is listening on port 5000. If you give value more than 65535, let's give 65536, save it and run again. So it will get an error. As you see, we got the error. So now let's give value 65535, save it and run again, and see our application is listening on port 65535. Okay, so you can give any number here between 0 to 65535. Okay, let's give standard port number 8080. Now let's open browser and type in URL localhost 8080, and here we see cannot get and /. That's because we didn't define routes. So let's define root route to handle request here. app.get/ is the home page, okay, and callback function, it accepts two parameters, request and response, and here let's send find my restaurant home page. Save it and run server again, and go back to our browser and refresh, and we do get find my restaurant home page. That's great. But here in this app.js file, it's all mixed up. We don't want our port 8080 and our database connection or any other secret signature API key in this file. So for that, we have to create environment variable. So let's install .env file, npm.env. Now let's create a .env file here in our project directory. And here we're going to write our all important secrets like port and database connection path. Okay, so write port equal to 8080 in .env file and save it. Now let's go back to our app.js file. Here let's import .env packages to load environment variable from .env file, and .config function is a method provided by the .env package. It reads the contents of the .env file. Now you can access the environment variable using process.env. So in our port here, we don't need this 8080 number now. We can write process.env.port. This port variable name coming from .env file, okay, and save it all, and let's run our application, and there you go, app is listening on port 8080. Now let's do MongoDB database connections. Okay, we're going to connect on MongoDB Compass. For that we need Mongoose library, and we already installed Mongoose, remember? Let's check our package.json file to confirm, and here we have Mongoose installed. Okay, so let's require Mongoose in app.js file. Then we need to provide the database path in our .env file. Okay, so here let's write db_url variable equal to, and here we need to give the path of our database. So let's open MongoDB Compass, and as you can see here, this URL MongoDB/localhost:27017, copy this URL, okay, and paste it here, and /give database name. So we will give restaurant DB, okay. However, I'm not sure using localhost will connect because it might face firewall or DNS resolution issues. If that happens, we will solve it, okay. So let's go back to our app.js file, and here const db URL equal to process.env.db URL. Then Mongoose have connect method. Mongoose.connect method will establishes a connection to the MongoDB database and give db URL as first argument. Now let's create a Mongoose connection object and store in con variable, okay. Now con.once open event on the Mongoose connection and simply log successfully connected to database. If it occurs error, then con.on error event and simply log failed to connect to database. Let's run application again, and app is listening on port 8080, and let's wait for database connection. And we encounter issues connecting. It failed to connect to database. Why? As I said before, because our machine firewall or DNS resolution is stopping to connect. So instead of this localhost, write loopback address as 127.0.0.1. Basically localhost is bind to this loopback address, okay? And save it and run again. An app is listening, and here we successfully connected to database. If this still didn't work for you, then you can use 0.0.0.0 4 times 0. This is a public default address, but don't use this always, use localhost, okay? Save it and run again, and we got connected to database. And there you have it, a fantastic start to our journey into building a robust real-world application using Node.js, Express.js and MongoDB. I can hardly contain my enthusiasm for the next lecture, where we'll delve even deeper into the world of RESTful APIs and how they integrated seamlessly into our project. Remember, knowledge is power, and the more we learn together, the more powerful our coding skills become. If you found this video informative and inspiring, I would be thrilled if you could show your appreciation by giving it a thumbs up and subscribing to Octacoder channel. Your support fuels our passion for teaching and sharing knowledge. So until our next exciting session, keep coding, keep exploring, and most importantly, keep that coding spirit alive. Happy coding, everyone. Here we have established a connection to our MongoDB database using MongoDB Compass. Now I am going to guide you through an alternative route connecting to MongoDB Atlas. MongoDB Atlas is a cloud-based database service that offers flexibility, scalability, and convenience. Let's dive into the steps to connect to MongoDB Atlas. So let's search on Google MongoDB, and here you'll get first link mongodb.com. Open this link and you'll see interface of MongoDB homepage like this. Here in the right corner, click on sign in option. If you haven't created your account, then create new account by clicking on sign up options, or you can use your Google sign in. Okay, and if you have already account, then log in it. After logging in on MongoDB, you will redirect to your previous created database, like I have created Octa database, so it open here. Don't worry, I'll show you all step by step from creating new database and cluster, how to create the Atlas database URL, password, how to generate, that all you'll learn from scratch now. Okay, so let's create new database. How to create that? If you click on your username here in this blue color name, like Octacoder, here, click it, or you can click on this drop down option and click Octacoder Atlas here. Then you will get all previously created project list here. These are I created before. So now let's create new project by clicking on this right corner new project button. Then give your project name here. So let's give restaurant DB and click on next button. Then here you can add members if you want. Okay. Then click on create project. Here we created database, but we are not assigned it to get our database. So here we need to create deployment. Basically we need to choose our cloud provider. So let's click on create. Then here you will get paid options and one free option. If you want to buy, you can. Otherwise, use this free option. Select this free option, and below you can choose provider, whoever you want, AWS, Google Cloud and Azure. So I'll choose AWS. Then you can select region. So I'm from India, so I'll select option Asia, Mumbai. You can write cluster name here. If you don't want, then keep it as it is. You can write tags also, but this is an option. So I'll leave it that and click on create button. So it will navigate to security quick start page. Here you can set your username and password. Okay. So let's give username Octacoder. Password you can write your own, or you can click here auto generated secure password. It will create 16 characters secure password, something like this. Note down that password or save in notepad. Okay. Then click on this create user, and below here you can select my local environment or cloud environment. Okay. I'll select my local environment. Then you need to add your IP address. So I'll add by clicking on this add my current IP address. It will add my IP address. I'll blur this. I don't want to show my IP address. Okay. Then click Finish and Close. And congratulations on setting up access rules. Click on Go to Overview. So here we don't have any clusters yet. You can add data from here. Okay. So first let's connect cluster to our application by clicking on this connect button. Here you can select options. If you want to access on Compass, then select this Compass or Shell or MongoDB for VS Code. Any of these you can select. I'll select this driver option and you will get all information here, installation command. But here we just want this string, this database URL. It have our username in this URL and cluster name here. So copy this URL and close this. And let's open our project in VS Code. Open .env file because this is database URL and we have created environmental variable for our port and database URL. Here we have given MongoDB database URL. So for now let's comment out this by giving hashtag .env file commented by hashtag. Okay. And let's create new variable named Atlas underscore URL equal to and paste the URL we just copied from Atlas. And here in the password, remove that and paste our auto-generated 16-character password we have saved in Notepad earlier. Okay, let's take this password and paste it here. Save this file. Please don't use my password for your project. By the time you watch this video, this database won't even exist. So create your own password and use it. Okay. Now open our app.js file and here in the db URL, process.env.this db URL, remove this and give atlas underscore URL variable here and save it. And let's run project now. Open terminal, node app.js and there you go. App is listening on port 8080 and successfully connected to database on Atlas. Congratulations. Now you know both ways. How to connect database on MongoDB Compass and MongoDB Atlas. So we have done our database connectivity. Now the real application starts from here. The heart of our application, the RESTful APIs. We are building RESTful APIs for Find My Restaurant, right? So you have little idea of what we're going to build from our documentation. This is our documentation and in documentation we have given all steps for building Find My Restaurant application. What we need to do, right? Like add details, list down all data, find by category, update and delete. So basically CRUD operation, create, read, update and delete. So what do you think should be our logical next step over here? Alright, don't worry, I'll guide you step by step. Okay, so we need to create here restaurant schemas. As you seen in the document, we have given all fields that we need for restaurants like name, description, category, image, location, phone and rating. These are fields we need to create now. So schema, always write it in the folder models. Okay, this is our models. If you know MVC pattern, model, view, controller. So the first step is create a models. So in our project directory we don't have. So to do that, let's create models folder first of all, and then inside that I'm gonna create a new file called restaurant model.js. And in this file we can define how our restaurant documents should look. So the first thing we need to do inside here is require Mongoose. So const Mongoose equal to required Mongoose package because it's Mongoose that allows us to create these models and schema for our data in database. Now let's create restaurant schema. So const restaurant schema equal to new object mongoose.schema constructor to define the fields you need. So what we need here for our restaurant? Well, we should have restaurant name, right? So we add a name property to the schema and then this can be an object where we can define bits of information about how the name property should look. So for example, we can add type property in here to say that it should be a string. Make sure capital S here. Okay, so if we try to save a new restaurant document to the database where the name isn't a string, it's a number, then it's not going to allow us to do that. It imposes this schema. We can also say that we want this to be required by using required property and setting equal to true. Alright, so what's next field? Let's check our documentation. Here, restaurant schema, name, then description. So let's do same for description, then type string required true. Similar for category, let's just copy this and paste it, just remove description and write category here. So do for all other fields, just copy and paste and change names. Okay, I'll do little fast forward. Okay, and last we have rating. For rating, type is number. Okay, so are we finished with schema? Is there anything remaining? Well, yes, we need to give created at field. It is very important. Why? Just like person born, so we remember date of birth and time, right? And that will not be going to change. So always give created at. And what do you think? What will be the type of created at? Type is date. Then this is also not going to change. So immutable value true. If we do not pass any date, then we will give default value of date. So default return date now function. So value will be default if we do not pass. Okay. Similarly, we will also have one more parameter as updated at, but it will not be immutable because it will get updated. So it's mutable. So remove this and value default date. Okay. And that's it. We're done creating our restaurant schema. This is for beginner developers, so we keep it simple. Otherwise, you can use more validation if you want. Okay, so let's export this module. Module.exports equal to mongoose.model and name give restaurant singular and second parameter we pass schema restaurant schema. This will allow you to interact with your restaurant data. Okay, so this creates a model now which we are going to import in other files. And we are done with the schema. So what should we do next, guys? Don't worry, I'm here to guide you. So now is the time to create our controller, the first API endpoint function, which is add restaurant. Okay, then we will do routing. Okay, if we don't have API endpoint, then we don't need route, right? So first let's create our RESTful APIs, which is controller, and this API will be inside in controllers folder. So let's create controllers folder here in our directory and inside create restaurant.controller.js. Okay, so first we need to import here our restaurant schema model, right? So const restaurant equal to require and give correct path. Remember always give relative path. So our model is inside models folder. So give 2 dots then slash. You will get auto suggested here. Select models folder. Then our file restaurant schema. So our model is stored in this restaurant variable. Okay. Alright. Now we are ready to go for our first API endpoint creation, which is add restaurant. So let's create a function which is exportable. So exports.add restaurant. You can name it anything if you want. Okay. And this will require request and response parameter because this will come from routes. So we can write our logic here now. So first thing we will create restaurant object from the request which we get. So we have multiple fields like name, and name will have request.body.name. And similarly we'll have multiple data. So copy paste this and just change names. Give all our fields name here. Second is description, then category. I'll do little fast forward. And last rating. Okay, so now let's insert our data into database. So let's do in between try and catch. Okay, so try and catch, so we can handle errors. Inside try, const restaurant equal to restaurant dot create method, and this is promise method. So we'll write await. First write restaurant object and here write await. So we writing await here. So the function has to be async. So write async function here. So we are awaiting to restaurant to be created, and we will also send this particular restaurant back to the client. So response short res dot status code 200 for OK success and send restaurant. And if we have any error, then log here console.log error creating restaurant and error.message, and we'll send response.status code 500.send and message some error occurred while creating restaurant. So let's test it our API in POSTMAN. Before that we need to import body-parser in app.js file. So if you remember we already installed in starting. So let's confirm that. Open our package.json file and here we have dependencies body-parser. Okay, so let's import const body-parser equal to require body parser. And we'll use Express as middleware. So app.use body-parser.json. This is just telling that the dealing of data between my server and client, it should be in the form of JSON. But as soon as JSON enters my server, it should be converted to JavaScript object. As soon as it leaves my server, it should be converted into JSON object. So this conversion happens because of this body parser. And you also have to do URL encoded because it should encode it with character or special characters. So app.use body-parser.url encoded and give extended as true. So the last step we need to do is the define routes. So let's create a new folder here, give name routes, and inside create restaurant route.js file. First import our controller. So const restaurant controller equal to required give relative path, select from controllers folder and restaurant controller. Then we will export the function here. So module.export equal to function app, and our first API is post API. So app.post, and we have given API link what should look like in the documents. So here we can write app.post / API restaurant and add and comma and middleware restaurant controller dot add restaurant function. So we done route. Now the last and final part is need to do in app.js file. Here let's do required routes, restaurant route and app function. And we done all functionality. So now let's test it out. So let's start server, open terminal, node app.js and enter. App is listening on port 8080 and successfully connected to database. Okay. So for testing we have POSTMAN software. So let's open POSTMAN. Lot of new learners don't understand this software, how to use it, but don't worry, I'll guide you through step by step. Okay. So here in the left side bar in collection, here you can see plus sign. Click on the sign and it will create new collection. And here you can edit collection name. So let's give find my restaurant. Then here you can add a request by clicking these three dots, or you can just click here. Okay. So add request, then enter our localhost colon 8080 path, then / our API. So this API copy and paste it here. Okay. Then select body, then select raw, and then here select JSON format. Okay. And then write our fields that we need to add for our restaurant. So we have name. Remember this is JSON format. So all in double quotes. Okay. Name Octa. Take out. For image URL, I'm just going to write my YouTube channel link is just for the demo. Okay. You can add your image URL actual path. And we done writing all our fields. So then click on the send button and there you go. We have successfully created our first document. As you can see, status code 200. Okay. And we got expected output here. Now let's check in our MongoDB Compass. Let's open MongoDB Compass. And here click on connect. And here we didn't get our restaurant database, which means something wrong. Oh, we have given Atlas URL path and we are looking in MongoDB Compass. So our database, it must be saved in Atlas online. So let's open Atlas and here click on view deployment. Then here click on collection tab. And there you go. We have our documents here saved in MongoDB Atlas. And if you want to save in MongoDB Compass, so let's change our database path in .env file. Here, let's uncomment this DB URL and comment this one, save, and in app.js file, instead of this Atlas URL, write DB URL and save it. Restart the server, successfully connected. So let's send again in POSTMAN. Here, just click on send and successful to under status. And now let's open MongoDB Compass. Click on connect, and here we have now restaurant DB and the collection restaurants, and here we have our first document. Congratulations, you just learned the first API add restaurants. So let's add another for confirmation. Okay, so in POSTMAN let's change name, give Burj Khalifa, location Dubai, dining, 7-star rating, and send it successfully. Status 200, all okay. So let's check MongoDB Compass and refresh this, and here we got second document, Burj Khalifa. Everything is perfect. Congratulations guys. And there you have it, a fantastic start to our journey into building a robust real-world application using Node.js, Express.js, and MongoDB. I can hardly contain my enthusiasm for next lecture, where we will delve even deeper into the world of RESTful APIs of reading data, updating and deleting data, and how they integrate seamlessly into our coding. Remember, knowledge is power, and the more we learn together, the more powerful our coding skills become. If you found this video informative and inspiring, I would be thrilled if you could show your appreciation by giving it a thumbs up and subscribing to Octacoder channel. Your support fuels our passion for teaching and sharing knowledge. So in previous session we inserted restaurant data, so now we're going to fetch data present in database. Okay, so before we write a fetch function, let's give comments here to understand code. Okay, so here let's write comment add restaurant, code starts here, and we always write comment above our function where code begins. But when beginner developer comes, then they don't understand code started here but where it ends. So write another comment after function close. So let's copy this comment and paste it after function close. Okay, and here let's write add restaurant code ends here. So it's easier way to understand where function started and where it ends. Okay, lot of developers don't write this comment, but it's my way to write comments like this. So you can give comment as you want. Okay, so now let's write function for fetch restaurant data. So here again write start comment first. Fetch restaurant data code starts here, and write end comment also. Just copy and paste this, and instead of start write ends here. Okay, and now we can write our function in between comments. Okay, so let's create a asynchronous function which is exportable. So exports dot get all restaurant. You can name it anything if you want. Okay, and this will require request and response parameter. So we can write our logic here inside try and catch block. Try and catch, so we can handle error. Inside try, let's initialize an empty object named const restaurant query equal to curly braces. This empty object is then used as the query parameter when calling find method. We will write find method now. So const restaurants equal to write await restaurant dot find method and query parameter. Okay, this capital R restaurant is our model we define on first line of code. Don't get confused in names. Okay, find method. This is a method provided by database libraries like Mongoose to query a collection and retrieve documents that match certain criteria. It allows you to retrieve multiple documents. Okay, so we are awaiting to get all restaurant to be fine, and we will also send restaurant back to the client. So response dot status code 200 for OK success and send restaurants. And we can write message restaurant fetch successfully. And if we have any error, then log inside catch block here console.log and some error occurred while fetching restaurant and error.message. This log is just for developer purpose. Okay, and we'll send response.status 500.send and message some error occurred while fetching restaurant, and save this code. And now we need to define the route for get all restaurant, right? So let's open our restaurant route file from the routes folder, and here we have defined post route for add restaurant. So now we are getting data, right? So for get we can write app.get method and then define API endpoint. So inside inverted comma slash API slash restaurant, then comma and middleware restaurant controller dot get all restaurant function, and save this, and we done. So now let's test it out in our POSTMAN. Okay, so let's start server node app.js and successfully connected to database. Okay, so let's open POSTMAN. So here previously we created find my restaurant collections and post request for adding, right? So you can give name here for this API endpoint. So click on this edit pen symbol and write add restaurant. And if you see here in left sidebar in collection, name got changed, but it's still showing get method. And here we given post method. That's because we didn't save this request. So click on this save button, and if you notice here, it become now post. Okay. So now let's add another request. Click on these three dots and select add request, and here let's give name first. Edit this and give name get all restaurant. Okay, and this is a get method. Then enter our API URL. So localhost colon 8080 slash API slash restaurant, and let's click on send button, and there you go. We get all restaurants details in here. We just have two restaurants here. So let's test if we add another restaurant from our post API, then we'll get here all restaurants or not. Okay, so let's just add one more restaurant. Just change name, give Taj, location Mumbai, 5 star. Okay, and send, and we successfully added. So let's fetch again, click on send request, and we have the last one Taj restaurant that we just added, right? So perfect, congratulations. So we have done create and read restaurant. So let's check our documentation. What's next API endpoint? So here we've done add and list down all restaurants. So next is find different categories of restaurant. For example, restaurant can be dine-in and few can be the only takeout, which means we need to find how many categories we have. If still didn't understand, so let's check our API endpoint for expected output. And here we have screenshot of API return the list of all the categories of restaurant present. So basically we need to fetch all categories. Okay, so let's write comment first. So fetch restaurant all categories code starts here, and fetch restaurant all categories code ends here. Okay, now again all same thing we're going to do like what we did for fetch restaurant. Okay, so write exportable asynchronous function. Let's call it get all categories. Okay, equal to async and request and response parameter, in short REQ and RES. Okay, and try and catch block. So we can write logic inside here. Okay, so const categories equal to await restaurant dot distinct method. This is a Mongoose method that's used to perform a distinct operation on a specific field in the collection. In this case, we are querying the category field in the restaurant collection to retrieve all unique category. Okay, so we are awaiting to get all restaurant categories. Okay, and if it is successful, then we will send back to client response.status code 200 for success. Okay, and send categories. And if we have any error, then log inside catch block here console.log and some error occurred while fetching restaurant category and error.message, and will send response.status 500.send and message some error occurred while fetching restaurant category. And that's it. Save it. And let's do routing. So in restaurant route file here, let's just copy this and paste again. app.get API/restaurant give slash and write categories, and remove these and get all categories function. Okay, save it and let's restart server again. So open POSTMAN so we can test API. So let's add another request and give name get all categories. Then enter URL here, just slash and categories our API what we written in route file. Okay, and let's click on send button and we get response all categories presence in database. So we have two categories, dine in and take out. Okay, so we always see successful response. Let's check if in our code something wrong, then we will get status code 500 for error or not. Okay, so let's change something in here. If this distinct method we misspelled, so let's give distinct and save it and stop server and restart server. By the way, you can use node-mon, so you don't need to again and again stop and restart server. Okay, but this is a beginner of our coding, so we doing all manually hands-on. Okay, so let's click on send and we get response some error occurred while fetching restaurant category, and here we also get response 500 status code internal server error. Okay, and if you want to see what's the error, then we have already logged our error message. So let's check in console what error message we got, and here as you can see we logged the error message some error occurred while fetching restaurant category. This is our string what we written in here. Okay, and then we log error.message, and error message we got is restaurant.distinct is not a function, which is correct. There is no function in Mongoose like that. And that's how to check errors where we made mistakes. Okay, so everything is perfect. Let's correct our mistakes distinct to distinct. This happens lot of time. We misspell sometimes in our code and developers don't understand where is the error. But now you learn how to check errors. Okay, so let's restart server and send again, and we got response 200. Okay, and we get all categories. Perfect. So now let's check what's next API endpoint in our document. Fourth API is find restaurant by categories whether they are dine in or take out. Basically we need to fetch all restaurants whoever have dine in category. So we need to list down. Okay, let's see in the example. See, when we send request for dine in, okay, when you send request, you'll get all dine in restaurant list. As you see in this example, we have this expected output. Okay, so let's do code for this. It's all same again and again, just some minor changes we need to do. So let's write comment again. So this one, fetch restaurants by category name. Code starts here. Okay, and code ends here. Okay, so let's create exportable asynchronous function. So exports dot get restaurant by category equal to async and request response parameters. Okay, so then const curly braces category name equal to request dot params. This destructuring to extract the category name from the parameters of the incoming request. Request.params. The request.params object contains route parameters, and in this case it's assumed that the route has a parameter named category name. When we write after slash dining or takeout, okay, you'll understand when we run API. Okay, then logic goes inside try and catch block, and inside try block const restaurants equal to await restaurant dot find method for fetching right and category colon category name. You can also add more validation like to uppercase or to lowercase in case someone type in upper or lowercase, right? Okay, as you want, we will keep it simple for now. Okay, then response.status 200 and send restaurant, and if error occurs, so in catch block we'll send 500 and error message. Okay, and now let's give routing. So in restaurant route file here, just copy this API and paste. Path is same, just after categories give slash and colon category name. Okay, and middleware and get restaurant by category function and save it or restart the server and let's test it on Postman. So here let's add new request, give name get restaurant by category and API URL is same. Just copy this one from our categories, okay, and paste here. Then here give slash and write category name here. So we have two categories, dine in or takeout. So let's write dine in and click on send button, and there you go, 200 status code successfully fetch all dine-in category restaurants here. Perfect. So let's write here takeout and send, and there you go, we fetch all restaurants by takeout category. All perfect. As we look back at our journey thus far, we have achieved significant milestones. From creating and inserting restaurant data to fetching it, our application backbone is steadily growing stronger. In our previous session, we successfully created and tested several REST API endpoints. Moving forward, let's explore the next API endpoint as outlined in our documentation. Our existing APIs cover functionalities like adding, listing, and categorizing restaurants. Now the fifth endpoint involves locating a specific restaurant using its unique identifier. This endpoint is pivotal in enabling us to pinpoint a restaurant's details through its designated ID. By sending a request with a restaurant's ID, we'll retrieve the corresponding information seamlessly. To illustrate, consider the API endpoint get restaurant /ID. With this understanding, let's delve into the coding process. So in our restaurant controller file here, let's start with comments. Add a comment, find restaurant by ID, code starts here, and also end comment, just copy paste and change ends here. Alright, so let's create a synchronous function which is exportable. So exports dot get restaurant by ID. You can name it shorter also if you want, okay, and this will require request and response parameter. Then const curly braces and inside ID variable equal to request.params. The request object represents the incoming request. The params property of the request object holds the parameter extracted from the route. The curly braces are used to destructure an object. In this case, you are extracting the ID property from the params object. You can also write like request.params.id if you want, okay. Then our logic goes inside try and catch blocks. Inside try block, let's define variable called restaurant. So const restaurant equal to function is asynchronous, so we are awaiting to get restaurant, okay. So await keywords we need to write. Then restaurant, this is our schema model dot find by ID method. This is a Mongoose method used to query a collection and retrieve documents that match the specific criteria. Okay, now our criteria goes inside this find by ID method. This method is specifically designed to find a document by its unique ID. So underscore ID field colon ID, or you can also write here request.params.id as you want, okay, and this underscore ID is the field, okay. And if you want to check, so let's open our MongoDB Compass, click on connect, restaurant DB and restaurant collection, and here as you can see this ID is an object ID. We don't need to create this ID, it gets auto created whenever we insert new document, okay. So it is object ID and the value is unique key. All documents have unique ID as you can see here. Okay. And if a restaurant found, you respond with status code 200 and send the restaurant object as the response. This indicates success and provides the details of the found restaurant. And else, if no restaurant is found, then we will send response status code 404 which is not found. These status code are important. Don't forget to write status code. Okay. And send message no restaurant found with the given ID. And catch block for error handling. So log some error occurred while fetching the restaurant. And why we log this? In previous session we have learned importance of error handling. If you haven't watched our previous videos, so please go and watch. I'll give link in the descriptions. Okay. And send response status code 500 and message some error occurred while fetching restaurant. Alright, let's save this file and let's write API endpoint in our route file. So open routes folder and here restaurant route.js file. Let's just copy this last API and paste and remove these categories. After restaurant give colon and ID. Then here controller and our get restaurant by ID function. Okay, make sure to make changes. Don't just copy and paste. Okay. These little changes sometimes we missed and our code don't work. So make sure all is okay. Alright, so we done our functionality for find a particular restaurant. So let's test it out on Postman. Let's run our application in terminal. Successfully connected. Perfect. Let's open Postman. And this is our previously created API endpoint. Let's click on send to see it working fine or not. So send and everything's fine. We get response all takeout categories restaurants. Some new beginner developers still struggle to use this Postman, but it's fine. Just think Postman as a browser. This is like a Google Chrome, Firefox or any other browser. Here on this top, as you can see, these are tabs like we seen in browser. Here, let's open Octacoder GitHub. This URL is like our API endpoint. Octacoder YT is like in our project dine in or takeout that we have seen, right? Same like that, and when you press enter, then you will get response success 200. Okay, let's see in console. By the way, if you want source code, then you can take it from Octacoder GitHub. I'll give link in the description. Okay, right click, then select inspect, or you can press F12 key. Okay, then here lot of tabs you'll see. Elements. In this tab you'll get all HTML CSS code here. In console tab you'll see error or whatever you have logged in console. Okay, just explore these tabs and you will understand. Okay, then here let's click on this network tab. Here let's refresh page, and when I refresh page, did you notice here for a second they were pending and then they become 200 status code. Hope you have noticed. Let's refresh again and see pending and then success 200. And how much time it takes to load page. Here you can see all information here. Here click on JS tab and these are all JavaScript files. Let's click on image. Here we have this GitHub image Octacoder profile pic, right? So click on this image tab and see status 200, type is PNG and loading time is 0 seconds. And now if you click here and see, you'll get all information here. See request URL, then method get that we are writing for our API, and this is status code 200. You can see all this information. Developer do codes for it. Okay, just explore this yourself, try to observe it and you will learn quickly. Okay, now let's go back to our Postman. So now you understand this Postman is like browser. Here we can add new tabs, right? So it's not that difficult to understand. Try to do hands-on and you'll get used to it. Okay, so let's add new request and new name get by ID. And here our API URL after restaurant we need to write ID. So let's take ID. So let's open get all restaurant, this one. Let's fetch all restaurant, send, and we have 3 restaurants. So let's copy this Burj Khalifa object ID and paste it here after slash and click on send, and there you go. We get response 200 success and Burj Khalifa particular ID restaurant, we got it. So let's copy other ID. So copy this one and paste it here and click on send, and we get particular restaurant. Perfect. If we write wrong ID, let's see what we get. So let's change last 2 character here, give anything and click send, and we get response status code 404 not found and message no restaurant found with the given ID. All perfect. Congratulations. Let's move on to the next API endpoint. Let's see in the documentation what's next API, and 6th is find restaurants based on their ratings. For example, you want to look for all restaurants with ratings greater than equal to 4. See example here, rating 4, then you will get response all restaurants who have rating greater than or equal to 4. See, okay, let's do code for it. So let's write command first, find restaurant by rating value. Code starts here and ends here. So let's create another asynchronous function which is exportable. So exports dot get restaurant by ratings equal to async and request response parameters. Then const curly braces rating value equal to request dot params. Then our logic goes inside try and catch block. So inside try block, const restaurant equal to await restaurant dot find method rating field colon curly braces dollar $GTE colon rating value, and this $GTE is stands for greater than or equal to. It is a MongoDB query expression used to filter documents in a collection, specifically if a field in document is greater than or equal to a specified value, rating value in this context. Okay, and if one or more restaurants match the criteria, we will send response with 200 status code and send list of matching restaurants. Then inside catch block, we handles error. So log some error occurred while fetching restaurant and error dot message, and send response with 500 status code and message some error occurred while fetching restaurant. Let's do routing for it. Open route file, and here let's just copy paste this and remove ID rating slash colon rating value, then get restaurant by ratings function. That's it. Save this file, start the server, and let's test it on POSTMAN. So let's add request, give name get by rating value. Okay, and URL after rating give slash. Let's type rating value. We want to see the list of all best restaurants who have ratings greater than 5. Okay, and click send, and we get response 200, and we have 2 restaurants who have greater than equal to 5 ratings. We have Burj Khalifa and Taj restaurants. Perfect. Let's see if I give value 6 and send, and we get only Burj Khalifa. And if I give 3 value, and we get list of all restaurants who have rating greater than equal to 3. That's perfect. As we look back at our journey thus far, we have achieved significant milestone from inserting restaurant data to fetching it and searching restaurant for particular categories to filtering by rating value. Our application's backbone is steadily growing stronger. In our previous session, we made significant progress by creating and thoroughly testing several REST API endpoints. Today, we are taking the next step by exploring a crucial API endpoint outlined in our documentation. Our existing APIs already cover a range of functionalities such as adding, listing, categorizing restaurants, and even filtering them by ratings. However, the spotlight today is one of the most vital endpoints, updating specific restaurant details. This endpoint plays a pivotal role in allowing us to precisely modify restaurant information using its unique ID. To achieve this, we employ the HTTP put method to perform updates seamlessly. By sending a request with restaurant's ID, we will effortlessly retrieve and modify the corresponding information. To illustrate, consider the API endpoint put API restaurant ID. With this understanding in mind, let's now dive into the coding process. So in our restaurant controller file, here let's start with comments. Add a comment, update restaurant by ID, code starts here, and also end comment, code ends here. Okay, so let's create a asynchronous function which is exportable. So exports dot update restaurant equal to async, and this will require request and response parameters. Then const curly braces and inside id equal to request dot params. Then our logic goes inside try and catch block. Inside try block, first let's create restaurant object. So const restaurant object, in short obj, equal to curly braces. Then inside curly braces, write our fields. So we have name colon request dot body dot name, comma description colon request dot body dot description. I'll just do fast forward, write all fields, okay, and make sure you writing spelling correct as given in schema model. Okay, this is validation for required fields in the restaurant object. It ensures that you only update the fields that are provided in the request body. Okay, then const restaurant equal to await keywords restaurant dot find by id, or you can use find by id and update method. This is commonly used for updating specific documents in MongoDB collection. When you know their unique IDs, it's useful for scenario like updating user profiles, editing product details, or modifying any document that can be identified by a unique identifier. So find by ID and update method. Okay, then ID restaurant obj and new colon true. When you set new to true, it instructs find by ID and update to return the update document as the result of the operation. Okay, then if restaurant is successfully updated, then we will send response status code 200 and restaurant and message restaurant updated successfully. Else we will send status code 404 message no restaurant found for given ID, and inside catch block we log error message. So console.log some error occurred while updating restaurant and error.message, and we will send response.status code 500 and send message some error occurred while updating restaurant. And that's it. Save this file, and now let's do routing. Okay, so let's open our restaurant route file. Here we only use HTTP 2 methods. One is post and second is get method. But now we are updating restaurant details. So here for update we have put method. So app.put method and API/restaurant/:id. Okay, here don't get confused because we have written same here in this API endpoint, but here we have used get method and now we using put method. Okay, then restaurant controller and update restaurant function. That's it. We done routing. So let's test it out in Postman. So let's run application, open terminal and node app.js, enter, and successfully connected to database. Perfect, everything's fine. Open Postman. Here, this is our previously created API endpoint for get restaurant by rating value. So let's check it working fine or not. Click on send button and status 200 success, and we have all restaurant list greater than 3 ratings. Perfect. So let's add new request here. Give name, update restaurant. Then here HTTP method we need to select put for update. Make sure that is put OK. Then our API URL after restaurant we need to provide object ID. So let's copy from this rating API. Here let's copy this last document ID, copy and paste here. Okay, now we need to write fields for update. So here select body, then raw, and here select JSON format. Okay, then insert curly braces, write our fields, and this is JSON format. So make sure all in double quotes. Okay, so first is name. So what was our name? Here let's check Octa restaurant. Okay, so now let's update. Let's give name Tao Bao. Then description Chinese cuisine. Okay, what's next field? Let's just copy these fields so we won't make spelling mistakes. Okay, so copy this category to rating. Okay, and paste here. So let's update this category, take out. Then location update Chinese, phone 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 just for example. Okay, and rating 4. Alright, so let's click on send button, and voila, we got status code 200. Okay, and we get output restaurant updated successfully. That's perfect. Now let's check on MongoDB Compass, it got updated or not. So here in restaurant DB, restaurant collection, and here let's see Taobao restaurant document, and here it is before it was Octa restaurant. Now we updated to Taobao Chinese cuisine restaurant. Great, so update is working fine. And if you give wrong ID here, let's delete last 2 characters, write anything and click on send button, and we get response status code 404 not found, and message no restaurant found for given ID. Perfect. So now in case we didn't write request body fields here, so let's delete all these fields, and here ID is correct. ID, let's correct it, copy this ID and paste here because we changed last 2 characters before. Okay, so click on send button, and we get data here which is wrong. It should have response restaurant data is required because we are sending empty body, right? So in our controller we need to write code. So let's write it for that. Here const curly braces, write all the fields separated by comma. Okay, name, description, location, rating, then equal to request.body. Then if it is not found name or description or all other fields, okay, then we will send response.status code 400 and send message restaurant data is required. Okay, save it and restart server, and now click on send button, and there you go, we got response restaurant data is required. Congratulations, all perfect now. And if you write all fields with correct ID, so let's write all fields again. Let's just copy this, make some changes, name give JW Marriott, Indian, dine in, location Mumbai, 5 star. Okay, now let's click on send button, and voila, we get status code 200 and restaurant updated successfully, and now everything's look perfect. Congratulations, now you just learned how to update data. That's great. Now let's move on to the final API endpoint, which is the delete operation. As we refer to our documentation, we can see that we have 2 delete options, delete restaurant and delete all restaurants. Let's start by examining the example provided here. This API is responsible for deleting the details of restaurant with a specific ID. Upon a successful deletion, the response will confirm that the restaurant has been deleted successfully. Now let's proceed to write the code for this operation. So let's add comment. First, delete restaurant by ID code starts here and ends here. Okay. Let's export asynchronous function which is exportable. So exports dot delete restaurant equal to async, and this will require request and response parameter. Then const curly braces id equal to request.params. Our logic goes inside try and catch block. Inside try block, const restaurant equal to await keywords restaurant dot find by id and delete method and id to find and delete the restaurant document based on the provided id. Okay, and we will send response status code 200 send restaurant and message restaurant deleted successfully. And inside catch block we handles error. So log some error occurred while deleting restaurant and error dot message and send response status code 500 send message some error occurred while deleting restaurant. That's it. Save this and let's write route API endpoint in our route file. Here let's just copy this and for delete we define http delete method. Okay, then here delete restaurant function. That's it. Run application again and let's test it on POSTMAN. Let's add new request here and give name delete restaurant. Okay, and http method select delete. Then API URL after restaurant. Let's fetch all restaurant and here let's copy this last document ID and paste here and click on send button. And there you go. We get response 200 and restaurant deleted successfully. Great. So now last API endpoint is delete all restaurant. Let's check example for expected output. Here this API deletes all existing details of the restaurants. After hitting the API, the output you can expect is here we will get response acknowledge true and deleted count and message restaurant deleted successfully. Okay, so let's do code for this one. So let's write comments delete all restaurant code starts here and ends here. Okay, so let's create a synchronous function which is exportable. So exports dot delete all restaurant equal to async and request response parameters. Then our logic goes inside try and catch block. Inside try block, const restaurant equal to await restaurant dot delete many method to delete all restaurants in the database and write curly braces and const curly braces deleted count equal to restaurant. If deleted count is greater than 0, it responds with status code 200 and an acknowledge true. The number of deleted restaurant count and message restaurants delete successfully, and else count is already 0, then there were no restaurants to delete, so we still return an acknowledgement and deleted count of 0 and message no restaurant found to delete. Okay, and inside catch block we log error console.log some error occurred while deleting restaurants and error.message and send response status code 500 and message some error occurred while deleting restaurants. So we done code. Now let's write API endpoint in route file. Let's just copy this and paste and here remove ID because we deleting all restaurants, so no need ID. Okay, change function delete all restaurant function. Okay, save the files and let's start server again. Open POSTMAN. Let's add new request, give name delete all restaurant and http method select delete. Okay, and here API URL until restaurant. Now click on send button and there you go. We get response 200 OK and output as expected acknowledge true deleted count 5. We had 5 restaurants in our database. So 5 count and message restaurant deleted successfully. Great. Now all deleted. So let's click again on send button and we get response deleted count 0 and no restaurant found to delete. Perfect. Everything's great. Now let's open our get all restaurant API and click on send button. And here now we don't have any restaurant to fetch. So we fetch successfully empty list. Great. So let's test all our API endpoint one by one now. Okay. So let's start with add new restaurant in our post API here. So we have data here. So let's just click on send button. And great. We get successful response. Let's add another name Burj Khalifa takeout Dubai 7-star and send. Successfully inserted. So now let's fetch all restaurant from our get API here. Okay, click on send button and we get 2 restaurants available. Great. Now next API is get all categories. Click on send and we get dine in and takeout categories. Perfect. Now next API get by category name. So here takeout. Okay, let's click on send button and we get takeout category restaurant. Great. Then next API we have get by ID. So let's click on send and we get ID not found because that was previous ID we provided. So now let's copy this ID and paste here. Click on send and there you go. We get restaurant details by particular ID. Great. So next API endpoint is rating value. Okay. Rating 3. Click on send. We have 5 and 7 rating restaurant. So let's write only 7 rating value and send. So we get 1 restaurant which have 7 ratings. Perfect. Now next API endpoint is update by ID. So let's copy this Burj Khalifa ID. Okay. And paste here. Name Octa restaurant. All okay. Click on send button and update it successfully. Now delete by ID. Let's copy this ID and paste here and send. And there you go. Particular restaurant deleted successfully. And the last and final API is delete all restaurants. So let's click on send button. And there you go. All restaurants deleted successfully. Congratulations fellow coders. We have embarked on an exhilarating journey throughout this series of crafting the Find My Restaurant application. I hope you have found every moment of it as exciting and informative as I have. Together, we have built a robust full-stack backend application equipped with powerful features and error handling. In our previous session, we covered a spectrum of RESTful APIs, starting with add restaurant, followed by features like listing, categorizing, filtering, and searching restaurant with fineness. We have navigated through advanced topics, exploring the secrets of curing specific restaurants and enhancing our results with rating values. It's been a journey aimed at making your quest delightful dining experience smoother and more enjoyable. However, our journey doesn't end here. In this final episode, we have dived into essential operations like updating and deleting restaurant data, ensuring the integrity and flexibility of our Find My Restaurant application. As we wrap up this coding adventure, I want to express my heartfelt gratitude for being part of the Octacoder community. Your support fuels our passion for creating valuable content. If you have followed this entire series, please consider giving us thumbs up, sharing this with your friend circle, and subscribing to Octacoder channel for more exciting content. With the knowledge and skills you have gained throughout these projects, you are well equipped for your coding endeavors. This Find My Restaurant project is a valuable addition to your resume portfolio, showcasing your ability to develop real-world applications. Thank you for joining us on this journey. Keep coding, keep learning, and stay curious. Until next time, happy coding, everyone. Please subscribe Octacoder. Thank you.